everyone, I hope you're all doing great. I'm Kirti Sophia Panachan, and in today's session, we'll be continuing the history of Indian journalism. The pioneering work of Raja Ram Mohan Roy in the field of journalism in the early 19th century led to a gradual growth of newspapers, magazines, and other publications in India. The brutal suppression of the revolt of 1857, suppression of the Indian nationalist press, and founding of Indian National Congress in 1885 and other citizens' associations were shaping Indian public opinion against the British. The Indian National Congress was founded by Alan Octavian Hume in 1885, which was in subsequent years responsible for freeing the country from British imperialism. The first session of the Indian National Congress was in Bombay, and it was attended by founders and editors of the leading newspapers of that time. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. He emerged as an important leader of the freedom movement in the post-war period, that is the World War I. He edited three publications, namely Young India, Harijan, and Navajivan. Through these journals, Gandhi guided the national movement and propagated his ideas of non-violence and satyagraha. The Government of India issued the Indian Press Ordinance in 1930 in order to control the press. This ordinance was passed specifically to prevent the nationalist press from covering Gandhi's historic Dandi March in 1930. Newspapers were asked to deposit huge securities whenever the authorities made a demand. Several more English and regional newspapers began in various parts of the country declaring support to the national movement. The Indian Express, Free Press Journal, The Dawn, Hindustan, Blitz, National Herald, Madhrubhumi, etc. aroused national consciousness in the length and breadth of the country. Along with the active leadership in the freedom struggle, Gandhi was also a great journalist and promoter of newspapers. Indian Opinion was a weekly published in four languages, namely English, Gujarati, Tamil, and Hindi during 1903 and 1915 in South Africa. Gandhiji returned from South Africa and began his political activities in India. He was the editor of Young India, which was published during the period 1919 to 1931, and Harijan, which was published during the periods 1933 to 1942, and also 1946 to 1948 January. Conflicting and exaggerated reports of riots and fearful predictions of communal outbursts flashed by newspapers prior to independence elicited a rebuke from Gandhiji. His newspapers were subjected to stoppage and revival according to the political situations. Among the publications of Gandhi, Harijan was the most important one. It was stopped in 1942 and was resumed again in 1946. It ceased its publication in 1949. Journalism was a noble profession for Gandhiji. According to him, a newspaper had three objectives to serve in a society. The first objective is to understand the popular feelings and give expression to them. The second is to arouse among the people certain desirable sentiments. The third and last objective is to fearlessly expose popular defects. His newspapers carried no advertisements and depended solely on subscription from readers. Gandhiji was a great force to be reckoned within the Indian freedom struggle. The noble objectives upheld by him in journalism are a model for media professionals and institutions. Gandhiji was certainly an editor with a difference. The British authorities made every effort to control and muscle the nationalist press during the Quit India movement launched by Indian National Congress in 1942. Gandhiji suspended the publication of Harijan and other weeklies on account of pre-censorship imposed by the government. National Herald was closed down in August 1942 and it could resume publication only in 1945. British-owned newspapers began to change ownership into Indian hands. Like the owners of many plantations and industrial units, the British proprietors of newspapers decided to sell their shares and repatriate the proceeds to their homeland. The Times of India was sold to Ramakrishna Dalmia. The statesman came under the Tatas. The saga of the Indian freedom movement is almost synonymous with the history of Indian press. National consciousness was aroused, sustained, and promoted by newspapers and periodicals. The Indian press played a valiant role in the struggle for freedom. Moving on, press in the post-independence era. The Indian press includes 48 centenarians. The Gujarat Daily Mumbai Samachar, published from Mumbai, is the oldest surviving newspaper. It was first published in 1822. As on 31st March 2014, there were 13,350 registered dailies on Registrar of Newspapers for India's record. As per the data from annual statement in 2013-14, during that year, the highest numbers of newspapers were published in Hindi, that is 3,213. The next is Urdu, 929. Then it's English, 695. Then Telugu, 562. Anand Basar Patrika, a Bengali daily from Kolkata, is the largest circulated single edition daily. It is followed by the Times of India. It's an English daily from Mumbai. And the third position goes to Hindustan Times. It's also an English daily and it's published from New Delhi. Press Council of India. The notion of a National Press Council in India was introduced by the first Press Commission report in 1954. It would be their responsibility to censor anyone guilty of breach of the ethics of the profession, besides fostering the development of the press and protecting it from external pressures. The Council is a body corporate having perpetual succession. It consists of a chairperson and 28 other members. The chairperson, by convention, is a retired judge of the Supreme Court of India and is nominated by a committee consisting of the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, speaker of the Lok Sabha, a person elected from amongst themselves by the 28 members of the Council. The Council has the power to consider complaints in addition to inquiring into complaints brought before them. They themselves can take up complaints. If satisfied that a violation of misconduct has taken place, the PCI may warn, admonish, or censor the newspaper, news agency, editor, journalist, or anyone related to the newspaper, or disapproves the conduct, recording the reason in writing. The Press Council does not have power to punish anybody. It has rendered a great service to the nation and in particular to the development of the press as a self-regulating entity. It has from time to time censored and warned a number of erring newspapers for violating the code of ethics. I hope today's session was fruitful for you all. See you again in the next class. Thank you so much.